Are you dreading your next home repair? Don't. Crew Pros is your one-call solution for everything your home needs. Whether it's heating and air, plumbing, complete roof replacement, whole home generators, and electrical repairs. Our professionals get the job done right. Crew Pros is your single source for high-quality home services at affordable prices. For everything your home needs, Crew Pros. Remodel, repair, replace.
Memphis. Nothing but Memphis. Everywhere we go, it's Memphis. Memphis, Tennessee, the beautiful land in the world.
And I'm thankful for this guy who tweeted and said, I don't have that fire in my eye no more. That game right there was for him. That's what I do. I prove people wrong each and every night, and that's for him right there.
Hi, this is Tom Izzo at Michigan State, and you're listening to Grizz 901.
What up, Grizz Nation, and welcome back to another episode of Grizz 901. We are presented by the good people over at Zach Jaworski State Farm, where they treat you like family. I'll be your host today, as always, and welcome to the playoffs. We're going to get into a complete playoff preview here tonight, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I guess tonight. I'm used to saying tonight. Today, on an afternoon, is an early afternoon, just kind of like afternoon baseball. And so it's going to be a great day. But you know who we got waiting in the wings. Who is he? What is he? Yo, what up, Nate? What up, man?
Did you mute me?
I did.
Was I making noise?
You sound so terrible. The rustling of the shirt was annoying.
Oh, my bad. I didn't know what was happening. I was like, oh, I must have offended him already. Gosh. I'm just sipping on my morning coffee over here.
Yeah, it's either coffee or whiskey, and today it's coffee.
Sometimes both.
So let's go ahead and get into it. Today we're going to break down the matchups. I have notes, lots and lots of notes. And so I have done my homework on the Lakers, and so
I have a smartphone.
I killed a tree, and so it's going to be a lot of fun. We're gonna just kind of work through a little bit of the details. I've kind of looked for things that are outlying a little bit, and so we're not going to be the coaching staff. We're not going to be anything crazy today, but we're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to look through the ups and downs of maybe what a series might look like. Break down a little bit on the matchup side of things, give you an X factor, and share some tidbits that we might have looked and seen. And if you watched that game last night, my God, how the Lakers survived is just beyond me. And that the game at the very end where there's just kind of leaving a guy wide open, and then you foul with 0.1 seconds to Mike Conley. Mike Conley just kind of little T-Rex arm on his shot, and he gets the shooter's roll. It was beautiful. It climbs over the front of the rim. And then in the end, we all knew the Lakers were winning in overtime. I just wanted them to not win by 9 or more points because my 8.5 was just sitting there, just waiting to be picked off by the Lakers. But all in all, it was a good time. It was a great game last night. Did you catch any of the game last night between the T-Pups and the Lakers?
Oh, I watched all of it, and
Nice.
I'm a much worse human being for having done so. I mean, that was a debacle. If you did not know better, you would think both those teams were either just steaming hot garbage or were dodging the Grizzlies. I mean, it was like, Who wants to lose this game more? And in the end, the Timberwolves wanted to lose it more, it looked like. I mean, I've been hearing a lot of Chris Finch hate this year, but I haven't watched enough Minnesota to really understand. And, if Minnesota won, I don't know if you would have done it or not. I was saying we should get our good friend over from Wolves Lead, Andrew Johnson, on here to talk with us. I didn't want to do it after that game because that was pretty terrible. But I understand the Chris Finch hate after watching that game. That was
gross. Well, and honestly, yeah. Okay, so yes, I believe it was gross, and I'll look up a little bit of the box score because I kind of looked through that a little bit, but I didn't really pay too much attention to it. The main thing I was looking for is maybe who they were playing and not playing, teams, players that they were going to. But I haven't looked too much at the T-Wolves stuff because honestly, I don't care about them. Like there's pretty much zero chance that we'll play them.
Zero redemptive value in analyzing that game from them.
Right. But 21-0 run for the Lakers was just gross. But yeah, they shat themselves is what they did going down the stretch.
It was 95-89 with over 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And the final score, including OT, what did they have? 101?
108 to 102.
102? Bro, it's brutal. Anyways, we don't need to harp on it. It's just, I mean, it's worth noting how terrible that was.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards had 5 points going into the last pretty much 2 minutes, and he got two just kind of runaway dunks, which gave him 9 points. He did not look like himself. Really, the only person that did was Karl Anthony Towns, but we had to give a guy a shout out, and honestly, Mike Conley. Dude looked amazing. But
per usual.
Yeah, but that's enough about him. I really wanted to see, in a weird way, I did want to see Mike Conley come to Memphis as well as Slow-Mo come back to Memphis in a playoff run. I thought that would be fun. I thought that would be good. I thought that the Grizzlies would welcome them in, but also send them packing, right? Because I feel like the Grizzlies are a much better team than Minnesota.
They are, but to be honest, I think there is two things you got out of it. The Grizzlies are a better team than Minnesota, but they're a better team than the Lakers too. Yeah. The other side of it is after all the trades and the moves and everything, listen, I still think Cat is as goofy as I've always thought he was. That dude is a weirdo, but I like the Timberwolves, right? I don't like Chris Finch. The guy seems like a turd, push Desmond Bane, whatever. Mike Conley, we all love him. Kyle Anderson, we all love him. Anthony Edwards, Memphians love Anthony Edwards. There's a lot about that Timberwolves team I like. And so it's a team that's like, hey, you just like all the guys over there, which makes it less toxic, more fun.
Right.
To be honest, I think as an overall body of work, the Timberwolves are a tougher matchup for the Grizzlies. They match up worse against the Timberwolves than they do the Lakers outside of Anthony Davis. Yeah. Conley showed what he can do last night. McDaniels, obviously, he's hurt now, but when he's healthy, can do a lot to hurt the Grizzlies. Cat, it's been a problem for them. When it comes down to just full-on matchups, just on paper, I think the Lakers are a better matchup for Memphis than Minnesota is. It just comes down to you got LeBron and AD who've won multiple championships between themselves and probably are better in pressure situations. So we saw what happened to the Timberwolves last night.
I agree. If you look at that, the Timberwolves stuff, they didn't have obviously two of their guys in Gobert and McDaniels that really could have helped them, but also you're not going to have McDaniels in a series in general. So in a 7-game series, that's going to hurt them going forward, depending on what happens there on Friday night. But let's go ahead and get into the Lakers a little bit. Nothing really impressed me from them besides the fact that when it came down to clutch minutes, it was all LeBron the entire time. And so we're going to get into a little bit of those matchups because I think the Grizzlies do match up with the Lakers well. But also looking at the previous games from this season, the Grizzlies won 1 at home. The Lakers won 2 at home. So it's really been a series just this season. I didn't go back further than that because these teams change so much. This Lakers team changed in the middle of the season. So I don't want to put too much stock into this within these 3 matchups. But I do have some things that I kind of want to point out and kind of bring to light a little bit within this matchup in general. But I think that this should be a good series. What I look at, the first thing that comes off to me is I see 2 guys on their team that are going to be their horses. They're going to play 40-plus minutes a night. I'm curious what your thoughts on that because LeBron played 45. Anthony Davis played 43. The Grizzlies, I haven't looked at their playoff stuff yet. Do you think that we get guys, even in the first game and going forward, do you think he plays Ja Morant, maybe Desmond Bane, 40-plus minutes, game 1?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, dude. Listen, for all the stuff we talk about Taylor, he proved last year when it got to the playoffs, he was willing to throw everything that happened in the regular season out the window if it looked like the playoffs, they were going to do something different in the playoffs and it would benefit them. So yeah, I think the only one they'll watch minutes with is probably Jaren.
Yeah.
And that's not to do anything with, they watch his minutes all year. We've been hearing all about the minute stuff with the defensive player of the year talks. The truth is he's gotten hurt every year he's been in the NBA. And last year he played 72 games, and then he had I think it was a hairline in his foot that had to go get fixed in the offseason, right? So you want him to be available not just for this round, but for the next round and the next round and the next round, hopefully all the way to a finals run, right? And playing him 40 minutes a night, maybe it's absolutely fine. But if you don't have to play him 40 minutes a night, you don't want to do that, right? But the truth is, in a matchup like this, without Steve-O, you're going to need Jaren to play close to 40 minutes a night. He is your size.
In this series, and I say this almost in any series that the Grizzlies play, they're susceptible to being blown out. They're also susceptible to blowing out a team.
Yeah.
The minutes, I think, in my opinion, will work themselves out to get some of these guys, mainly the big players, the superstars, they're going to get under their 40 minutes a night in at least 2 games, because I think the Grizzlies will get blown out in a game. I think the Grizzlies will blow the Lakers out in a game. I don't expect this to be a less than 10-point game in every single game. And I just think that you're going to be able to catch some wind during that time. Also, you're going out to the West Coast. There could be a little bit more extra days off. You could catch 2 days. Looking at these series matchups, I think that they all could go 7 games. We don't know who Denver could play, but I'm looking at every single team, and I think that, as we showed last night, Minnesota should have won. Atlanta completely just dismantled Miami. Like that, those are from the very start. So you're seeing that. I think it's a little bit closer than we realized, just because regular season this year, it seemed to be a little off at times. But I think that these teams are much closer, and I think we're going to continue to see these in the play-in games. We're going to see is it the Pelicans and the Thunder tonight, and also Toronto, Chicago. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait. But I think that this is going to be very close. I think this is going to go at least 6 games. If I had to put my money where my mouth is, I would say it goes 6 games. But the Grizzlies are at home, and I think that they have the better team. I think they are much deeper, and I think that they get it done, not to spoil anything. That's not a prediction of anything that probably nobody saw coming. Any Laker fan that might be here, any Grizzlies fan knows I'm going to pick the Grizzlies. They're the 2 seed for a reason, but they're the better team for a reason. But I'm interested in seeing a little bit of the breakdown of what and how it all plays out. And I'm also interested, and I'm going to let you talk on that, but I'm also interested in seeing a little bit of what the Grizzlies do and who they put out, right? Because I think it could go to 10-man, but I don't know if that 10th man plays more than 8 minutes in a game at all.
I think, well, let me be clear. What do you want me to talk about first? Because I have feelings about everything you just said.
Surprise me.
I think this is Grizz and 6 at the most. I think the Grizzlies, and this is not, I mean, obviously I'm biased. I'm going to take the Grizzlies no matter what. Just like last year, I was talking about the Warriors series, and I was like, Grizz and 7 still, whatever. And it was looking pretty bleak after Ja's injury, right? But I do think the Grizzlies are a significantly better team than the Lakers. I think just overall body of work, they're better. The only things you worry about are, I mean, unfortunately, this is a conversation we actually have to have, but the whistle. I mean, listen, the Wolves vomited everywhere. The whistle is not the reason the Wolves lost last night. 13-0 in second half free throws until 0.1 seconds are left on the clock is an absurd number. And the Wolves, again, they weren't exactly putting pressure on the Lakers. There were some calls in there that you're like, brother. Yeah. There's some stuff that was missed. And
on that real quick, they weren't getting downhill at all. Like Anthony Edwards was just completely gone. Like if he's able to get downhill, the whistle maybe evens itself out. But I completely agree that the whistle was absolutely horrible.
Well, but there was times under the basket where it's clearly like, yo, come on now.
Yeah.
And you hope that doesn't play out in a full 7-game series. But if we're being honest, it's something that I'm genuinely concerned about, that I hate to say I'm genuinely concerned about. But the biggest thing is Anthony Davis. What are you going to let Anthony Davis beat you? I mean, it's a strange world and you're playing with fire, but you'd rather LeBron beat you than Anthony Davis if you're the Grizzlies. You've got to gang rebound. You can't let Anthony Davis get comfortable. You got to send two. Jaren's got to find his way over to AD, even if he's roaming, because he can't. X does not have the size, right? He just doesn't have the size to battle with AD, right?
Okay.
And so those are the two things. Outside of that, Grizzlies are a better scoring team. They're a better defensive team. They're a better shooting team, which is not something that's been, you could say, in seasons of Grizz past. They are better at everything than Lakers, other than it's going to be rebounding. Truth is, we need Steve-O to go hold a doctor hostage and say I'm good to go, right, Doc? That's what I thought, and get back on the court.
Real quick on that, I want to touch on that real quick. So Steve-O, from what I'm reading between the lines and what I'm kind of figuring out and piecing in my little brain that I use, not often, but I try. I see that the Grizzlies are being super safe with him, right? And I think that he wants to play. I think the Grizzlies wish he could play, but I think the medical staff is saying you're not going to play because we don't feel comfortable. They just signed him to an extra 2 years, so an extension after this year, so 2 extra years. He's obviously pivotal for this team. I just wonder if he does come back, and that's why the likely word is there. What does it come down to? Does it come down to an image that they look at and say, hey, okay, we see that it's possibly doing better, we feel comfortable? Or is it that he's out getting shots up and he's out doing things to try to show them that he can, I guess, be an active person and be a normal NBA player, that they can have trust in him? Like, what is it, and what's it going to come down to get him on the court if there's any chance at all?
I don't know. I'm a doctor. I don't know why you're asking me. This is for our guy, Andrew Hanesian, to talk to us more about. He knows about this stuff. I don't know what it is. I got no idea what it is, but there's a reason he's still out there on the court doing stuff, right? I mean, that's the one thing that just doesn't line up. If he's likely out, and I mean, it looks like he's getting a good sweat in and actually doing things out there. So maybe it's just him saying he's going to do stuff on his own to be ready because he wants to come back. But the truth is, there's just no idea. I mean, if Taylor says he's all but out for the playoffs, I'm assuming he's all but out for the playoffs. Okay. Right? I'm not counting on him coming back. There's a little glimmer of hope in my heart that could happen, but truth be told, I'm not.
Okay.
I wouldn't have my hopes up about Steven coming back.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and break down this matchup. And before we do, I'm going to play a little snippet of what LeBron said. He was asked by a reporter last night after the game about Thursday night. I'm sorry, after the game, and they were saying, "Hey, obviously you don't have time yet to break down your opponent. You just got done with a game." But he honestly gave a very insightful answer. So let's go ahead and listen to this now.
LeBron, I know you said you're going to lock into things more on Thursday, but what are your early thoughts on the matchup with Memphis and just kind of?
It's really, just a really good team, very well coached, very well balanced. Obviously, the head of snake is John Morant, but another all-star, Jaren Jackson, who's up there, won Defensive Player of the Year. His ability to block shots, but offensively, he's very dynamic as well. Tyus Jones, the point guard off the bench, has led the league in the assist turnover ratio like the last 6 years. So he complements them very well. Desmond Bane, I think in his third year, second or third year, but he plays like a veteran. His ability to shoot the ball from the three-point line is also his ability to, attack an early transition. Dylan Brooks, an opportunity to go out there and you can't disrespect him because he makes shots and Xavier Tillman. Been playing good basketball, obviously, well coached all the way from college days, with Coach Izzo, to now, and so on and so on. I mean, they got Luke Kennard, who broke my scoring record in high school. He passed me in high school, and it's the reason why, because he's a laser from the three-point line. His ability to shoot the ball, it's uncanny. And they got so many other guys also off the bench that you can't disrespect because they will make you pay. Obviously, I haven't thought about Memphis one minute.
All right, so that was a little tongue-in-cheek there where he was saying that he hasn't thought about Memphis for 1 minute. So shout out to LeBron. I hate on LeBron probably more than most people that probably enjoy LeBron, who he is. I think he's an incredible player. I think he has an incredible mind for the game. He broke down the Grizzlies team. I would imagine there was no sheet of paper anywhere close that was showing him anything. That was off the dome. And so he pretty much went down their roster and their main guys. And so shout out to him for being a very much a top student of the game. But it was funny kind of listen to some of the things and that he shared. I didn't know that he was a leading scorer. Luke Kennard was, and he scored more than LeBron. That was interesting. I had no idea that. But it was insightful for that. But let's go ahead and start off the complete breakdown of this matchup. The first thing that sticks out to me is Jaren foul trouble. In the 3 matchups, Jaren had 5 fouls in every single game. That is worrisome. It's not that Jaren hasn't become a little bit better from that. But the games were back in January, February, and March. That isn't so far away, and that isn't so far removed, but he played in every single matchup, and every single matchup he had 5 fouls. Is that an important factor to you? Because obviously it has to be, but do you think that will be a problem in every single game?
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's a huge factor. It's obviously a huge factor. You just don't know. You just don't know. I think Jaren will be smarter. He's got to be smarter than Cat was last night, right?
Got to be.
And listen, there was some stuff like Cat's 5th foul on AD was a foul that doesn't get called in the NBA much, right? It was a foul. It was a foul. It was a clear foul. It's something they let big guys fight that out all the time, right? And so again, it's not something I want to say. It truly isn't. But if Jaren's getting that kind of whistle where when they're fighting for position, arm fighting, there's 2 guys going at it, if he's going to get called for those, it's going to be bad. Like that's going to be bad for Memphis. And that's something that is out of his control, right? Because you can say all you want. That's a foul. I'd agree with you. It's a foul. There's fouls that get called and there's fouls that don't get called.
Right.
That's a foul that does not need to be called in this series if Jaren's going to stay out of foul trouble.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I think Jaren will be smarter. I genuinely think Jaren will be smarter in this series. We saw him grow all season. He looked a ton better. I mean, you hear all this stuff about his foul trouble. He only averaged 3.1 fouls per game this year. It's not much. Or 3.6, I believe. I'm sorry. It's Draymond was 3.1. I was comparing defensive player of the year candidacies this week. But he had a rough stretch, and that Lakers game fell in part of that rough stretch. I can't remember exactly when it was, where he was getting in foul trouble every game. Like started in that Orlando game or maybe a San Antonio game and just went for like 4 or 5 straight games. He was in foul trouble, but then he snapped out of it and got back to it. Right. So we'll see. I mean, there's no way to guess accurately what he will and won't do. What you can say accurately is if he doesn't get into foul trouble, I think that's where you start leaning into Grizz and 5 type stuff, right? If he does get in foul trouble, toss up in 6 or 7. And I said I think that the Grizzlies will win this in 6 at the most, so I'm counting on him staying in the game.
Okay. Well, the first matchup, the Lakers were without AD, so he received 5 fouls even without AD. That is obviously a big part of that. But somebody else I'm going to bring into this, and then I'm going to actually 2 people. Okay. So I'm going to hit on a little bit of Xavier Tillman because I think he is important to this matchup, but I'm also going to hit on Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks, the first game that was without AD, but LeBron was there. Dillon Brooks fouled out of that game. The next one, Dillon Brooks had 5 fouls where LeBron was out, but AD was there. And then the third game, which is 3-7 as of recently to March, Dillon Brooks had another 5 fouls. 2 of the guys are close to fouling out or fouled out in Dillon Brooks and Jaren Jackson Jr. They're allowing the other team to have 10 fouls between them in each matchup this season. And in the first matchup, when LeBron was there, You actually had 11 in that game between those two. I think it's very important for those two to stay out of foul trouble. There are best two defensive players, but there's no way you can put a stat or any rhyme or any reason. I can't give advice to those guys. I am not that guy. I'm just pointing out the facts that foul trouble has been an issue every time we played the Lakers this season.
Well, and I do want to say that I believe the foul trouble for Dillon is different than the foul trouble for Jaren. We've seen Dillon. Jenkins has a lot more trust in Dillon to go out there with 5 fouls than he does Jaren. Because Dillon, and we've seen this, it's sort of become defining of his career to this point. It's a very controlled chaos. You know, you heard, if you listen to Jaren's interview with Tim McMahon on, was it Howdy Partners? Is that Tim McMahon's bit? I love it. I listen to a lot of those. But Jaren's talking about DB. He's like, he knows what he's doing. And if you get out of control, you've just played into it because he's looking out of control, just trying to get you out of control. So I think DB's foul trouble is different. I don't worry about not having Dillon Brooks. Like if you lose Dillon Brooks, maybe with 2 minutes left in the game, which obviously can be a problem, but it's not where Jaren, where if he picks up his 5th foul in the early 4th, he might be out of there if you keep him in by 8 minutes left, 6 minutes left, right? From what we've seen in the past. With Dillon, if he picks up that early foul in the 4th, he's still going to be there until 2 minutes left for the most part. But the key for both is going to be don't get the meaningless fouls.
Right.
Don't get the fouls 40 feet away from the basket.
Yeah.
You know, don't get the offensive foul where you were just out of control and didn't think. If they stay away from those, they're going to be fine, right? Even Cat last night, offensive fouls and silly fouls where there was no reason for him to be doing it are what put him in that hole.
Yeah.
Right. And if you stay away from those, it's not going to matter if the whistle's against you or not. If you stay away from the silly fouls, you're going to be okay. So it's discipline.
Let me interest you in another stat for that. Dillon Brooks has played less minutes than Jaren Jackson Jr. in all 3 matchups versus the Lakers. He played 27 minutes twice, and he played 31 minutes one time. He played between 2 to 5 minutes less in the entire game in these 3 matchups. I think that's very important. And I think that, yes, you're right. I think he does trust him, but I also think that Dillon Brooks does more of the dumb fouls, the further away from the basket fouls than Jaren does. I think Jaren is just trying to create things around the basket. And I think he gets a little bit greedy trying to get the blocks, and that's why he gets some of those stupid fouls. A lot of it is boxing out too. So Xavier Tillman, I think, is a key player in this, and I think he is very big for the Jaren foul trouble, but the foul trouble in general. But let's talk a little bit about Xavier Tillman. Do you think that Tillman starts in the game 1 or throughout the series?
Who are the Lakers starting? They got Schroeder, LeBron.
Well, so Schroeder doesn't start. He comes off the bench. So whatever his name is,
LeBron,
the guy who doesn't like the spotlight, D'Angelo Russell. Reeves
starts.
Yeah, D'Lo, Reeves, James, Vanderbilt, and Davis. And so they're pretty much going to go with that outside of maybe moving some things around. But for the most part, I would imagine that's how they go.
I think they start Tillman and put Jaren on Vanderbilt in the corner, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think that's more because I think that allows Jaren to roam. In the last 2 matchups with Tillman played, he didn't play in the first matchup. The last 2 matchups, Tillman had 2 fouls one time, and then he had 2 fouls in both matchups. He was a +10 and a -10, so not that matters at all. But what he did well is he rebounded well. And so he allowed for, he had 10 rebounds, 4 on the offensive glass on the latest matchup. The middle year, when the Grizzlies were at home, he had 11 rebounds, 7 offensive rebounds. He has been a very good offensive rebounder, but also what he's done is, and this is something else we want to talk about as well, the 2 matchups that Anthony Davis has played, they were both been without Steven Adams. So it's been Jaren and Xavier Tillman. Davis had 19 rebounds, 6 on the offensive glass. In the latest matchup in the 7th of March, he had 22 rebounds, but only 4 were on the offensive glass. That's 18 defensive rebounds. I don't care how many defensive rebounds he gets. If he wants to get all of them, that's fine. But I just think that Anthony Davis, keeping him off the offensive glass is going to be a feat in itself. And that's really where Anthony Davis gets a lot of his points because he did score 30 points one time. in the latest matchup, and then the matchup 428. So he's obviously one of their biggest X factors against the Grizzlies.
My question is, and they've got a few guys that can shoot, you got to stay on, but do you pull a boxes and elbows against the Lakers?
No.
And dare them to shoot?
I think
keeping
guys, you can.
Like keeping guys on the Schroeders, Beasleys, Reeves of the world who can shoot. And then LeBron, if he's hot, he can shoot, but I think you'd rather him be shooting 30-footers than you would have him driving and getting into the paint at will. And definitely with Anthony Davis, your best chance is to keep Anthony Davis as far from the paint as possible.
Right.
Because that's your best, because their thing there you can kill the Grizzlies on is offensive rebounding.
100%.
Offensive rebounding, free throws. That's the two things they can just destroy the Grizzlies on. That is how the Lakers can win this series. It's not going to be shooting. It's not going to be anything special outside of paint scoring. It's going to be free throws and rebounding, second chance points. So if you can keep AD out of the paint, it gives you an advantage on the glass. Again, the Grizzlies scheme, they're not built to do that, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm tempted. I would be tempted to do that if I was Taylor Jenkins. My guess is they come out just playing their brand of basketball and adjust if needed. But I think keeping AD out of the paint is the Grizzlies' best chance. I think AD is the X factor to this series.
Yep.
The AD-Jaren matchup.
I agree. And so Chris is asking about rotation predictions. Let's go ahead and get into that. I have mine. And
Chris
so
asking the questions I'm not prepared for.
So I think that rotations are going to be very simple. I think you're going to get Tillman and Jaren starting alongside of Bane, Ja, and DB. And so I think you're going to match up Dylan Brooks for the most part. You're going to match him up with LeBron. I think that's going to be clear across the board. And I think that the guy who is going to be his 2A or 2B or 1A, 1B, whatever you want to call it, the guy who rotates in a little bit and guards LeBron, especially if there's foul trouble, the backup plan will be David Roddy. I think that he has the size, the ability. But something I saw last night, going back a little bit to AD, they went small on AD at times. And it was weird that I was looking at that. They went small on AD and kind of tempted and like wanted them to back him down a little bit. It was weird. I don't know what that was meant to be, but he obviously dominated the glass. And so that's not what I want. But you're going to have a lot of switching within the Lakers because the Lakers love to make sure they get LeBron the ball and put him into the point guard position, the ball position, and do a lot of switching. And so potentially it could be a zone where you match up and you switch zone. I just think that they need to go ahead and let DB fight through every screen. I think that's going to be the best thing because LeBron doesn't get the screen and explode. He gets the screen, finds the matchup he wants, and then goes. So you can actually fight through those screens, especially those small boys that they're running out there. You're fighting over between whatever his name is, Austin Reeves screen, a D'Angelo Russell screen. You're going to bet a fight through those if you're Dylan Brooks, as long as he doesn't get stupid fouls. But the rest of the rotation for me, Aldama, as long as he's not injured, obviously I want him out there. Tyus, David Roddy, who I just said, and Luke Kennard. That's the four I'm going to go with. If you want to go ahead and put in, Jitty, you can. But that's the main four I would go with. I don't know if there's anybody else that I'm missing, but that's really the main four I would go with. And then if you want to put in Jitty, you can.
Yeah, I'm looking at more of an 8-man rotation with the ninth guy being a mix of Roddy and Jitty in like need you minutes. Like gotta have a body minutes, right?
Yeah.
Roddy's been better than Jitty this season. I've been adamant about it.
Second half of the season.
Yeah, he's been better. It's still a rookie in the playoffs against LeBron, Anthony Davis, and the Los Angeles Lakers. It's not something you want to be going with, but I'm saying 8-man rotation: Ja, Dez, DB, Jaren, X, Tyus, Luke, Santi. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of the small ball lineup, like you were saying. And small ball meaning you have a 7'2" dude at center and Jaren, but that's their small ball, right? Where you have the Ja, Dez, Luke, DB, Jaren lineup. The difference I will say about going small on Anthony Davis for them last night is it's a little bit of the same thing where without Gobert, they're in the same position with the Cat Jaren situation. It's basically the same for Minnesota and them. The difference is they do have Kyle Anderson, who is a very versatile defender, right? He can guard a lot of different positions. Whereas if you go small on AD, if you're the Grizzlies, you got X, who I don't think he can keep up with AD. I think AD's just as fast as him, quick as him, more athletic than him, and he's also just dwarfs him, right? And so your only small ball hope against AD is Dylan, and I don't see any reason they would put Dylan on him instead of LeBron this series, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only problem I see. If you go small, it means Jaren is your 5 against AD, right? Which at some point we will see, and probably if the Grizzlies want to be everything they can be, you need Jaren to be able to handle that type of matchup. And it's not something we've seen from him so far, to be fully candid.
Yeah, and something I would look at as well within the this matchup in general, especially game 1, but throughout the series, the Lakers do not want to play tough in the mud basketball. They don't want to do anything that isn't easy in the first half. They just don't. They want to play free. They want to play wide open. LeBron wants to shoot his 3-pointers. He doesn't really get down into the lane very early. So if you do go small, it's so tough because initially you would say, let's go ahead and go with Tillman and Jaren, right? And then if Jaren's not in foul trouble, then we can twist it around and go more small in the second half because we have Dylan and we have Jaren that are not in foul trouble. But that honestly, that's kind of opposite of what the Lakers want to do because the Lakers want to be a little bit more tougher in the second half. That's why they got that whistle, is because they were getting more downhill in the second half than they were in the first half. First half, they were just shooting, from wherever.
We will find out if that whistle disparity is a real thing or not, because the Grizzlies get downhill with the rest of them.
Correct.
So we're going to find out if it's a Laker whistle or not, right? And I hope it's not. I hope that is, whether win, loss, beautiful, ugly, I hope that the whistles are not something we talk about on this show through the rest of the season. It just makes it like the Minnesota series last year, brother. It was completely marred. It was terrible. I mean, it's so bad. I am nauseous just thinking about it right now. It was terrible. If that happens again this year, we just don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
But the one thing I do want to say too that the Grizzlies can do as far as that goes is X not as athletic as AD. X not as big as AD.
That's okay.
X as strong as AD.
Right.
That dude can just make life hell for him.
Yeah.
Just beating him up. And if you get in foul trouble and you're Xavier Tillman, you've done your job.
Yeah.
Because you just want to make that dude work for everything. And listen, the biggest thing is with AD and LeBron, we've seen with them both in the past, not the past, the recent past with AD a little bit more so. They're not the most durable. LeBron is just getting old, right? LeBron, who's been crazy durable through his whole career, is year 20 what now? I mean, he's just been playing for so long, and then AD obviously has not been mega durable. You just want to make those guys work. You saw them last night at the end of that game.
Yeah,
in a slow-paced game.
Done.
that was one of the least up and down games I've watched in the NBA this year. You just want to wear those guys down. So that's one thing X can do there. But listen, it's pretty simple. And I think the biggest X factors we talked about, AD, Jaren, that's going to be huge. I think the biggest outside X factor, Luke Kennard. Is Luke Kennard going to shoot the lights out like he has since he's been with the Grizzlies? And are they going to be able to get him those shots? Because if he's making those shots, it just makes the world a lot easier for Ja, Dez, DB. And I think Luke's going to make those shots. If they didn't have Luke Kennard, we talked about this being the most underrated move at the deadline. If they didn't have Luke Kennard, I would be genuinely like, coin flip more on this series, because I agree. You have Dez who can shoot, obviously, but you just you don't have the shooting. If you have Luke Kennard, that's your Beasley you can throw it out to, and he's just going to knock down a shot, right? I mean, I was watching who was it? Oh, it was the Hawks Heat game, and there's a lot of guys on that team who conceivably are supposed to be able to shoot. And you in the past have been like, man, it must be nice to just throw it to a guy and you just think it's going to go in every time he shoots it.
Yeah.
And then last night I started to say that and I go, oh, wait, we've got that guy. Yeah. And that's huge for the Grizzlies. So AD, Jaren, biggest X factors. Luke, I think, is a secondary X factor. Who's going to be the role player that steps up and drains shots? If the Lakers have the guys that step up and drain shots, they could win the series. If the Grizzlies have the guys that step up and make shots, the Grizzlies will win this series handily.
Yeah. Some other people I want to talk about as well. I think that you are right in that. I think it's more of AD, and I think it's probably Ja, in my opinion, about being an X factor, because when the offense gets a little stale, I think you got to go to Ja a little bit and try to see if we can get downhill, get him into the lane. Is he hitting those floaters? Because in those two matchups that Ja played in, he took 29 shots in both of those matchups. He's a different player right now. I don't know what we're going to get back in a guy like Ja Morant, but taking 29 shots in each of those. Another guy I want to shout out as well is Desmond Bane. His three-point shooting in these three matchups this season, he's 2 of 11. The latest game in March, he went 0 of 5 from deep, 3 of 14 overall. He has not played well against the Lakers at all. And so that's one thing I'm looking at is can he get into rhythm? That second game when they won at home, Desmond Bane went 0 of 2 from deep, but he went 7 of 13 overall. That's what you need to have him do, is be able to get downhill if his shot's not falling. But also having Luke Kennard couldn't space him out too, a little bit more freedom.
I'm with you on the Ja piece being more of an X factor than you would normally say, because his ability to break down that Lakers defense is going to be important.
Yeah.
And to be able to get in the paint and neutralize the Lakers, paint advantage is going to be a big deal, more so than I think it would be against a lot of teams. The Dez thing, though, Dez was out of a rhythm for a long stretch of time from three this season. And I think those Lakers games fell in that stretch.
Okay.
Right. And
fair.
I think we saw Dez get much more back into a rhythm towards the end of the season. And we got so used to seeing Luke Kennard shoot like 80% from three during games that Dez shooting 45% from three in games looked bad. Right. I mean, there's games I was like, man, Dez did not shoot well. He only went 4 for 9 from three. And I was like, hey, it's 40-something%, right? So yes, you need those guys to show up. I hesitate to call them X factors, because if those guys don't show up, then you're effed, right? Those are your guys. And so Jaren being an X factor has a lot more to do with the size issue for me. Otherwise, I wouldn't say he's an X factor, because he's your second, third best player. Luke, I think, is the role player. We talk about this all the time. Otto Porter Jr., Andrew Wiggins, Kevon Looney killed the Grizzlies last year. Who's going to be those guys for the Grizz this year? And I think Luke Kennard is going to have to be a big part of that.
Yeah. No, I agree with that as well, because Luke can obviously open up the floor, right? And if you're talking about putting Dez and Luke on the court at the same time, it does open up. It opens up room for Jaren to work a little bit, but also opens for Ja to get downhill. The only thing that I haven't seen is when they're on the court, I haven't seen Ja really get into the paint like he should, take his guy off the dribble. I think he's trying to facilitate, because he knows he has those two guys, those two shooters on his court. And so a lot of times what he does is he tries to facilitate instead of getting to the front. The only guy that I see that the Lakers are going to go with as an on ball with Ja is going to be Dennis Schroeder. Like, that is the only guy that can guard Ja Morant. D'Angelo Russell has zero chance, and Dennis Schroeder he's a decent defender.
Vando,
nah,
I put Vanderbilt on Ja, dude.
I guess, but I don't know
that
how
is the best defender they've got.
I guess, but Ja's cooked him before. It's not like it's, crazy. Like,
Ja's cooked everybody before.
I get it, but like that's what I don't know. If it was me, I would probably go with Dennis Schroeder. He's done well on Ja. You can go Vando all you want, but it wouldn't be what I would go with, honestly. If it was me, I wouldn't go with Vando. I hope
they put Schroeder on Ja. I would send him a thank you note.
Okay.
I disagree. I think they'll put Vanderbilt. Maybe they won't. I think they should. I think Vanderbilt is their best chance at guarding Ja. We saw it last year. It's always the athletic wings with length that can give Ja issues. Schroeder's athletic and he's strong. He's got no length to keep up with Ja Morant.
No, I just think that I think he can try to beat him to the spot, and he's a little bit longer in the tooth. Probably, I don't know Vando how long he's been in the league, but I just think of Dennis Schroeder as being a little bit more of a veteran presence. He's much better than D'Angelo Russell, who will absolutely get shredded. So maybe let's go with Vando on Ja when Russell's on the court. But I think when Schroeder's on the court, I think he's going to be on there. But we'll see.
Well, the problem for the Lakers is they don't have someone that can guard Ja and Dez and Luke. Like that lineup will destroy the Lakers.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Are you going to let Desmond Bane get to the cup or shoot a wide open three? Are you going to let Luke Kennard shoot a wide open three? Who his playmaking is the biggest reason I think he's an X factor. His ability to go off the dribble and create for other guys, big. Or are you going to let Ja Morant get a free runway to the paint to just annihilate Malik Beasley again? Poor guy. I hope it's not. I hope Beasley's not the victim this year. Poor guy.
Well, what I hope that comes out of all this, for the simple fact is, one, I hope everybody understands that there's so much in-depth knowledge that you can kind of just spin around, and we could literally talk about this for forever. Okay. So I don't want to continue. We're already past our 45-minute mark we normally do. This is a one-time deal. It's in the middle of the week. We're just, kind of previewing a little bit of the matchup. We are not going to have another episode until Sunday when the Grizzlies actually play. And so it will be the game one, the Lakers play, and it's a 2:00 game. It's a 2:00 tip. It's going to be on ABC. And so it will be home in the Grindhouse. So it'll be a lot of fun. And so I would imagine that we're probably going to get a Tuesday game. We have not heard that yet, but I would imagine maybe as a Tuesday game with a one-day layoff in between. I can't imagine that they wait and give them the Sunday and a Wednesday. That would not make sense to me at all. So I would expect them to have a Sunday, Tuesday, since they're the second day of games for the first round. And so I'm curious how all this plays out, but we won't have any shows for Grizz 901 until the first post-game shows. But we will be here in every single game. And unfortunately, as I told my wife this morning, the Lakers won. I will have some nights when I probably come to bed around 1:30. Like, that's just the truth.
I might be coming with you. Just take me home. Yeah, it'll be. I don't know if we have any special announcements or anything like that, but I do want to say, I think the summary of all of that, there's a lot of different ways for the Grizzlies to beat the Lakers. The Lakers can win, but I think there's very limited ways the Lakers can beat the Grizzlies.
It's two guys. That's it.
Yeah, and if the Grizz show up and just play confidently, you get Ja Morant asserting himself from minute one, game one. The Grizz are going to win this series.
Yeah.
And that'll be a very satisfying feeling. But we'll see. I'm excited. I'm excited for it to start. That'll be fun.
Absolutely. It will be fun. We'll get to our series predictions next, and we'll kind of give exactly what we think and how we feel. Before we do, we have to give a shout out to our presenting sponsor, and that is Zach Jaworski, State Farm. If you need a quote on any kind of insurance at all, please give them a call at 901-794-3691. You can get a free quote online at ZachInsuranceMemphis.com. That's ZACH, ZachInsuranceMemphis.com. They have offices in East Memphis as well as Collierville. Just stop in. Tell them the Grizz 901 team sent you. They'll be more than happy to help you out. Also, another thing is you want to become a Bluff City Media Insider. Just go where it says, if you have a coupon, just put in Grizz 901, all one word together, Grizz 901, and you'll be able to save you 10% off your subscription there. It's a lot of fun. We have the Bluff City Bets. We give all of our bets out in there. So if you're a betting person, I promise you it'll pay for itself for whatever the little amount of money it is. Plus, you get the Tigers news that's behind the scenes that you probably don't see as much of. You get that as well as Grizzlies content. And during the Discord channel that we have, we talk throughout the entire Grizzlies game as well as other sports. And so make sure you tune in and become an insider for the Bluff City Media. Just put in code Grizz901, save you 10% off. Let's go ahead and get into our series predictions, and then we will get out of here on it's beautiful outside, by the way. It's like 70 degrees. on the 12th. Shout out to my wife. It's our anniversary today. So 9 years. Shout out to Kate. It's been amazing 9 years, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun for this series. It's been fun for my marriage, but this series, it's going to be a blast. I can't wait for the Laker trolls to come, because that's always more fun when they're here, kind of living on the edge a little bit. But series predictions, anything that sticks out to you, anything you want to predict in this series, other than how it's going to go? Any predictions at all that you got?
Oh, for our series specifically? I thought you were talking about around the association.
No, just ours. Just anything that sticks out to you.
Well, first off, Grizz 901, soon to be brought to you by Blanton's Bourbon, home of history and taste. I'm going to be thumping for that. If anyone has any Blanton connections, big time fan. Trying to make them a big time fan of us. I will be tweeting at them later. For the Lakers Grizzlies, I think Ja averages 27 and 9. I think Ja averages 27 and 9.
Is that,
and
I think
think
that's assist?
Yeah. And if you want rebounds, I'll say 5.5. And I think Jaren averages, I'll go with 22.7. And
wow.
and 2.1 blocks.
All right, shut up. All right, so I'll go with that on yours as well. One thing I'm gonna say that I think that happens in a prediction. I think you're gonna have a Xavier Tillman averages 10 rebounds in this series a game. I think he's going to be a guy who only focuses. His one job is defending AD and rebounding the ball and keeping him off the glass. I think he averages 10 rebounds in this series. I think this is a coming out party for Ja Morant. I think it's a get right series for him. But I think the player that kind of finally breaks out and gets a little bit more of a name for himself, kind of underrated probably around the league in general, even though people know who he is, they still, think he's a really good player, a really great shooter. I think that Desmond Bane has a great series. He has not played well against the Lakers for whatever reason it is. It's not because he's being guarded by LeBron, but I think that he is a guy who will not have the sole focus on him, because it's going to be the Ja and the Jaren show. It's going to be the AD LeBron show. I think you have Desmond Bane step up, and I think he has, averages 24 points a game in this series.
I was about to say, I Mr. Stats and Notes guy. You see my blank sheet of paper with all my notes. I needed some averages predictions from you. I think it's a big series for Dez. I just think the Grizzlies play well. I think Ja, Jaren, Dez, Luke, I think your main guys all step up and play really well. And I think the Grizzlies win. I'd say Grizz in 5. I think Grizz in 5.
Grizz in 5.
I think Grizz in 5.
All right. Do we know, and I feel bad or maybe dumb for knowing this or not knowing this, but is it 2-3-2 in the first round, or is it 2-2-1-1-1?
I think. Wait, what?
You don't know either. I thought it was
2-3-2. 2-3-1-1-1. That's 8 games, Daniel.
Sorry, no.
2-2-1-1-1.
That's what I meant. Whatever. That's what
I was trying to put together what you were saying. I'm pretty sure it's 2-2-1-1-1. I don't know. I think it is.
Yeah, I don't know either. Like, that's what I'm trying to make sure I see, because either way, I still think the Grizzlies are going to be. And if you are in the comments, if you have that, let us know. I honestly, I didn't even think about that. But I know at one point it was 2-3-2 for ease of travel in the first round. That's what I thought it was. And so I'm curious what it might be. But anyway, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. It's not actually out yet, and so we don't know where games 2 through 7 will be, or what times or what days. They haven't posted anything out yet, but they're waiting for all these other play-in games to happen to see where they're going to put Denver versus whoever. All right, so it is 2-2-1-1-1 throughout. So perfect. Thank you for that, Chris. Dak Daniels. So if you have your predictions, go ahead and predict as well. Chris is saying Grizz in 5. I say Grizz in 6. I just think it's going to be tough because I think the Grizzlies, I think they get both games. I think they go 2-0 to the Lakers. And I think that game 3 for the Lakers is going to be a big one. I think it's going to be the one they get. But man, I just think that they have a chance to get both at home. And so you come back 2-2 back to Memphis. Grizzlies get third one, and I think they win the 6 on the road there in La La Land. And so I think that's why everybody's saying Grizz in 5, because you got to think they're going to steal one early from the Lakers, and then you come back home and then you clinch that 5th game. I would love to see that happen because in the end, that's huge. If you can get in 5, that's big because then you're moving on, a little bit of rest before the next series. But I just think that the Grizzlies end it in 6, but I'm probably on the minority here on that because I see a lot of people are saying 5 online as well.
Yeah. No commentary. Grizz in 5.
I like it. All right. Anything else you have? We're almost we're up to the hour, so I want to get out of here. But anything else you have for this series?
No, it ought to be fun. Embrace the hostility. Have fun with it. Don't take anything too seriously. Just have fun watching the games. So I'm going to challenge myself.
I was going to say that because that's usually how it is. It's usually yourself. I like to have a little fun online. I'm not running a major account anymore. And so I don't have to kind of hold my tongue as much. But I usually just don't get into too much, except for I'll kind of like certain stuff and then I'll comment a stupid
little push.
Yeah, just a little push on the comment.
If we keep it strictly basketball, it's going to be a lot of fun. It ought to be a really fun series. If you get too much caught up in back and forth on the Bird app, you might not have as much fun, and you might make yourself a little more miserable than need be. But let's have some fun, man.
Absolutely, have some fun. And one thing that I like to have fun doing is I literally just, for something stupid somebody says, and I've kind of done this as well for me personally, is instead of putting a comment straight back to them, I usually just put a GIF or a GIF, whatever you want to call it, and that's it. And that says enough. It lets them know that you're seeing that, and usually they will respond by something stupid. But it's always a fun time to just just kind of put something, and it's
don't know ball.
It's great. It's good time.
Watch the games.
You sound like Bill Walton. All right. We don't have anything else that I have at all. I think it's going to be a great series. We can't wait to be here on Sunday. I'm trying to work on maybe having a guest or so throughout the series, depending on how long we go, having a guest stop in just for a good 15, 20-minute spot. Just kind of give us their insights on whether it's certain players or the series. And so I'm going to be working through that. We do have something special we're working on as well. And so kind of stay tuned for that. So the first game, it will be just us. We'll be here on Sunday. 2:00 is when the game starts. So kind of expect us around the 4:30-ish mark. It's on ABC, so I imagine it goes a little bit long. So between 4:30 and 5, we will be here and better than ever. But embrace the hate, embrace the fun. Let's have a good series. Hopefully the Grizz win and take care of business game 1 so we can get the ball rolling and get started. So let's everybody have a great week. It's going to be a fun time. Make sure you catch up all your podcasts, all the articles that are coming out. The local media here is amazing. Tune into Bluff City Media. It's been great. The content that's being put out by Joe Parker and the team that everybody is doing has been a lot of fun. So that's all we have here. Have a great week. Be nice and tell your friends.